The mistress sent affair photos to the pregnant wife. She divorced in tears, but the billionaire walked away. At first, everything seemed picture perfect. A billionaire husband with undeniable charm, a devoted wife whose heart overflowed with love, and an empire that left the world in awe. Yet, hidden behind marble walls and shimmering designer gowns was a secret so destructive it would rip their seemingly happy marriage apart. The mistress, calculated and ruthless, held the ultimate weapon, explicit photos, capturing the husband's betrayal. When she sent them to the unsuspecting wife, her entire world collapsed into heartbreak. This is a cautionary tale of power, obsession, shattered trust, and the devastating regret that followed. Noah Lancaster was not just another billionaire. He was the billionaire, a visionary whose sharp business instincts turned a modest family company into a sprawling multinational empire. Born into relative comfort, Noah propelled the Lancaster name to global prominence when he revolutionized cutting-edge technology across industries, from finance to aviation. By the time he turned 32, he was a staple on the covers of major business magazines worldwide. Yet, despite all his financial conquests, he often said his greatest achievement was winning the heart of Sophia Carter. Unlike the glamorous socialites who vied for his attention at elite galas, Sophia had a far more modest upbringing. Her father, Richard Carter, was a retired history professor, and her mother, Evelyn, ran a small bookshop in their quiet New England town. Sophia majored in English literature at a small university, dreaming of publishing her own poetry collection one day. She never aspired to wealth or fame. If anything, she preferred solitude with her books and a peaceful life away from the spotlight. Their paths crossed at a charity gala in San Francisco, hosted to raise funds for underprivileged children. Noah was the evening's biggest donor, while Sophia worked behind the scenes as an event coordinator. In a moment of clumsy misfortune, she accidentally spilled champagne on his custom-tailored suit. Horrified, she apologized profusely, but instead of irritation, Noah laughed. The sparkle in her eyes and the sincerity in her voice caught him off guard. That night, they talked about art, philanthropy, and the meaning of success, forming an instant, unexpected connection. A whirlwind romance followed. Noah swept her off her feet with spontaneous private jet getaways, late-night walks along the Golden Gate Bridge, and even postponed a major international deal just to surprise her on her birthday. Sophia, in turn, introduced Noah to a side of life he rarely experienced. Picnics with her parents, home-cooked meals without private chefs, and afternoons spent reading to children at the local library. She grounded Noah in a reality far more authentic than the glittering corporate world he dominated. They married in an intimate garden ceremony beneath twinkling fairy lights, far from the usual paparazzi hotspots. Sophia wore a simple lace gown, while Noah opted for a classic tuxedo. Her father, Richard Carter, walked her down the aisle, his eyes shimmering with tears. Guests later recalled that Noah's vow, "I promise to shield you from all storms as you have sheltered me from my own ambition," was so heartfelt that many were moved to tears. For a time, their union felt blessed. In the early years of their marriage, they supported each other's dreams effortlessly. Sophia focused on writing her first poetry collection, while Noah pushed Lancaster Industries into new frontiers. Together, they founded the Carter Lancaster Scholarship Program, helping underprivileged students pursue higher education. Their synergy made them an admired couple in philanthropic circles, the self-made billionaire and his compassionate, down-to-earth wife. Whenever Noah teased Sophia about traveling the world with him, she would always promise, "As soon as I finish editing my manuscript." He adored her quirks, how she needed to alphabetize the books on their shelves, or how she would hum softly while stirring hot chocolate late at night. Noah often told friends that marrying Sophia was the best decision of his life. For a fleeting moment, their love story seemed like a fairy tale that would never end. But beneath the polished surface, cracks had already begun to form. As Lancaster Industries soared to greater success, the demands on Noah's time multiplied. His board pressured him to expand internationally, striking deals across Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. His phone never stopped buzzing with urgent calls, his schedule packed with global summits and high-stakes negotiations. Meanwhile, Sophia struggled with her writing. The penthouse, though luxurious, was stifling. With staff constantly moving about and the hum of the city never ceasing, she found it impossible to focus. Searching for peace, she buried herself in philanthropic work, organizing book drives, collaborating with local poets, and volunteering at shelters. Despite Noah's growing success, he became increasingly distant. Late-night business dinners became routine. At times, Sophia would stay up waiting for him, only to receive a last-minute text. "Working late? Don't wait up." On weekends, Noah would often hop on a private jet to meet investors in Dubai or Tokyo, always chasing the next deal. Despite the exhaustion etched on his face, his eyes still lit up whenever he saw Sophia. But those moments were fleeting, overshadowed by the weight of his responsibilities. Occasionally, tensions flared over seemingly trivial matters, disagreements that once wouldn't have mattered. Sophia hated how easily Noah dismissed their personal time in favor of endless meetings. He, in turn, felt misunderstood, insisting, "These deals secure our future." Yet, despite their frustrations, they remained devoted in their own ways. Sophia would slip handwritten notes into his briefcase, gentle reminders to take breaks. Meanwhile, Noah tried to show his support in return, sponsoring literary events for Sophia's circle of writer friends. Their love, though tested, still held firm. But then, a new presence entered their world: Isabella Hayes. An ambitious marketing executive with a flawless resume and an undeniable ability to turn heads, Isabella joined Lancaster Industries as the new global branding director. What started as a strictly professional relationship between her and Noah slowly blurred into something neither of them fully acknowledged, until it was too late. Tall, poised, and exuding a confidence that bordered on arrogance, Isabella was a woman who commanded attention. With a Harvard MBA and a career spanning top international firms, she was an undeniable asset to the company. But beneath the polished exterior lay a woman who craved power. And she saw an opening in Noah's life. At first, their interactions were purely professional. They exchanged ideas on rebranding strategies and market expansion. Noah appreciated Isabella's sharp business instincts, and in private, he teased her about her relentless drive, seeing a reflection of his younger self. Isabella, in turn, flattered him, praising his vision, empathizing with the lonely burden of leadership. Though Noah still loved Sophia, he found it refreshing to speak with someone who matched his corporate intensity. Isabella played her cards carefully, inviting him for casual after-work coffee to discuss upcoming campaigns, scheduling impromptu brainstorming sessions late into the night. Whenever Sophia texted or called during these moments, Noah would often ignore it, assuming it could wait. But the illusion of harmless camaraderie shattered when a corporate event in London led to a quiet dinner, which led to a walk along the Thames River, which led to a stolen kiss. Guilt gnawed at Noah's conscience. But the thrill of Isabella's confidence, her sheer ambition, so much like his own, drew him back in. When they returned to San Francisco, their secret meetings continued, sealed by hushed phone calls, fleeting touches in the shadowed corners of the office. Noah tried to rationalize the affair. "It's just physical," he told himself. "Sophia is my real love." But Isabella wanted more. As she embedded herself deeper into his life, she realized that if she played her cards right, she could become more than just a fling. With each passing day, the cracks in Noah's marriage widened. Cracks Isabella was all too eager to exploit. Life in the Lancaster penthouse took on a tense silence. Sophia sensed the shift before she had any tangible proof. Noah had become more guarded, avoiding eye contact, brushing off simple questions. Where he once spoke openly about his deals, he now deflected with vague references to company obligations. Despite the unease clawing at her, Sophia forced herself to trust him. She understood that expanding a global empire required enormous effort. Besides, he still showed glimpses of the man she married, bringing home a cappuccino from her favorite cafe or surprising her with a rare first edition of her beloved poet, Mary Oliver. She clung to these small gestures, willing herself to believe they meant he still cared. But San Francisco's elite social circles buzzed with whispers. At a recent gala for the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, Sophia's longtime friend, Margot Whitman, leaned in close and murmured, "I hate to tell you this, but I saw Noah and Isabella at the Claremont Lounge last week. They looked close, too close." Sophia refused to believe it. She dismissed it as malicious gossip, Just another attempt to target the billionaire power couple. But the rumors didn't stop. Even the tabloids ran photos of Noah and Isabella stepping out of a private elevator together. Though framed as corporate business outings, the images fueled the whispers, deepening Sophia's unease. Determined to silence her doubts, she planned a romantic weekend getaway to their coastal retreat in Big Sur. To her surprise, Noah agreed. They left behind the relentless pace of the city, driving up the winding Pacific Coast Highway, letting the salty breeze wash over them. For a fleeting moment, they rediscovered the love that first brought them together. Walking barefoot along the cliffs, holding hands as the sun dipped into the ocean, reminiscing about that long-ago night when Sophia spilled champagne on his suit. Noah's walls cracked, and he finally admitted how overwhelmed he felt, struggling to balance the weight of global expansion. Sophia promised him, "Whatever happens, I'm here. We'll get through this together." For one weekend, it felt like hope. But the illusion shattered as soon as they returned to San Francisco. Isabella ramped up her presence. She insisted Noah personally oversee a strategic branding project for Asia, which suddenly required endless working dinners and late nights at the office. Each urgent request chipped away at his time, and Sophia found herself, once again, falling asleep alone. Once again, Sophia found herself falling asleep alone in the penthouse. Her calls to Noah went straight to voicemail. Behind the scenes, Isabella's patience was wearing thin. Despite their secret rendezvous, Noah still hesitated to fully commit to her. The final straw came when Isabella learned that he had spent the weekend in Big Sur with Sophia, a romantic getaway that, in her mind, should have been with her. Fueled by jealousy, she confided in her best friend, Melissa Carter. "I'm done waiting," Isabella declared. "If Noah won't make a choice, I'll force his hand." A plan took shape in her mind. If Noah refused to leave Sophia on his own, then perhaps she could destroy the marriage herself. She began discreetly collecting evidence, photos, text messages, receipts from their secret hotel stays. Her confidence soared. Isabella was certain that once Sophia saw these incriminating pieces, the shock would tear them apart. And if Sophia divorced Noah, what would stop him from making Isabella the next Mrs. Lancaster? While Isabella orchestrated her plan, Noah remained in denial. He convinced himself that everything was under control, that no one would find out, that he could juggle two worlds indefinitely. But fate had other plans. A storm was brewing, one that would obliterate the Lancaster marriage and the illusions they all clung to. It happened on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, a day that began like any other. Sophia was at home, curled up in the penthouse, finalizing the last edits of her poetry manuscript before submission. The soft patter of rain against the floor-to-ceiling windows provided a comforting backdrop. She thought about texting Noah, but decided against it. He hated distractions during meetings. At noon, the doorman called. "Miss Carter, there's a courier here with an urgent envelope for you." Thinking it was something related to her writing or a charity event, Sophia headed downstairs. A man in a dark jacket handed her a plain brown envelope with no return address. Then he walked away without a word. She took it upstairs, settling onto the couch as she peeled it open. Curiosity turned to dread. Inside were printed photographs. The first showed Noah seated in a plush restaurant booth, Isabella leaning into him intimately. The next, a kiss. Then came the most damning images of all. Noah and Isabella, wrapped in each other's arms, stepping out of a luxury hotel. And at the very bottom, a short note scrawled in red ink, "Ask him about us." Scrolled in red ink, "Ask him about us." For several minutes, Sophia couldn't breathe. The world seemed to tilt, the edges of her vision blurring as she tried to process what she was seeing. Every photo hammered home the truth. Noah was having an affair. This wasn't gossip or a cruel rumor. It was undeniable evidence. Her stomach twisted with nausea, her eyes burned, and her hands trembled so violently that she nearly dropped the envelope. Devastated, she called Noah's phone repeatedly, but every call went to voicemail. Finally, she left a single message, her voice quivering. "Noah, I need you to come home. Right now." Then she collapsed onto the sofa, tears flowing freely. Fragments of their life together flashed through her mind. Their wedding vows, laughter on the beach, quiet moments cooking dinner, the philanthropic projects they had championed together, all now overshadowed by these cruel images. Hours passed in agony before Noah finally stepped through the door, drenched from the rain, his expression irritated. "What's so urgent?" he demanded, removing his coat. "I was in the middle of an important meeting. Couldn't this wait?" Sophia didn't speak. She simply handed him the envelope and watched as his face changed from annoyance to horror. His eyes darted between the photos and then up to meet her gaze. He tried to form words, but they stuck in his throat. Silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. She finally managed, her voice frigid and laced with heartbreak. "How long?" Noah swallowed hard. "Sophia, she snapped. "Don't bother lying. You're with her, aren't you? These photos. Why would someone send them to me?" He closed his eyes, shame crashing over him. "I'm sorry. I never meant for you to find out like this." Anger and sorrow battled within her. "You're sorry I found out? Or you're sorry you did it?" He took a hesitant step toward her, arms outstretched in a feeble attempt to comfort. "Sophia, I still love you." It just happened." She stepped back, tears streaking her face. "No, it didn't just happen. You chose it. You chose her." A bitter laugh escaped her lips. All this time she had believed they just needed to reconnect, that they could fix things. Meanwhile, he had been with Isabella behind her back. For the first time that night, Noah realized he had just lost her. "I thought we just needed to reconnect, that we could fix things. Meanwhile, you were with Isabella behind my back." "No, Sophia, please," Noah pleaded, desperation in his voice. "I love you. I swear this." She cut him off, her voice trembling. "I don't want to hear it." Turning on her heel, she fled to the bedroom, slamming the door. At that moment, Noah understood. This was no petty argument. The sanctity of their marriage had been shattered, and he had no idea how to piece it back together. As the storm within the Lancaster penthouse raged, Isabella Hayes watched from a distance, confident, satisfied. Her plan was unfolding exactly as intended. She had personally arranged for those photographs to be delivered to Sophia, having grown tired of Noah's hesitation. For months he had danced around making a choice, clinging to a marriage that was already doomed. Now, there was no turning back. Isabella had forced Sophia to see the affair, to see the truth. And once Sophia was gone, Noah would have no choice but to stay with her. But the victory felt hollow. She had expected Sophia's devastation. What she hadn't anticipated was Noah's guilt. That very night, as he sat alone in his office, nursing a tumbler of whiskey, his phone rang. "Isabella," he answered, his voice haunted. "Why would you do that?" Instead of relief, she heard despair. She feigned innocence. "Do what? I have no idea what you're talking about." Noah slammed his fist against the desk. "Don't lie to me, Isabella. Who else would send those photos to Sophia?" Silence. Then her tone hardened. "I had to make you see reason. You were never going to tell her. This charade couldn't go on forever. She deserved the truth, didn't she?" Noah's breath shook. Anger and regret tangled in his chest. "So you ambushed her? My wife? The woman I promised to protect? How could you be so cruel?" Isabella let out a bitter laugh. "Cruel? I've been patient, Noah. Months of stolen weekends. Months of watching you pretend your marriage was still real. I won't be sidelined anymore." Another silence. Then Isabella pressed on, her voice steely. "Now that everything is out, we can move forward. You'll divorce her and we can finally be together in the open." Noah recoiled at her words. For the first time, he saw Isabella's ambition laid bare. "I never promised you that," he whispered. His voice was barely audible, but the weight of his words was undeniable. "I never said I'd leave Sophia." Isabella's voice turned cold. "It's your only choice now. Now Sophia will divorce you. She's no fool. And I won't accept living in the shadows. You can't have both of us." With that, Isabella ended the call, leaving Noah alone in a sea of turmoil. He stared out the window. The San Francisco skyline stretched before him, the city lights twinkling mockingly, reminding him of the empire he had built. An empire he now risked losing. Corporate deals, philanthropic endeavors, wealth. None of it gave him comfort. Because the one thing that had truly mattered, the only thing, was slipping through his fingers. With growing dread, he realized Isabella had set the perfect trap. By forcing the affair into the open, she had made it nearly impossible for him to salvage his marriage. But another feeling burned beneath his regret. Anger. Noah had been weak, had made mistakes, but now he saw Isabella for what she truly was. Talented, yes, but also ruthless. She was willing to crush anyone in her pursuit of power, including him. For the first time since the affair began, he understood. His time with Isabella had never been about love. It had been about excitement, about ego, about a reckless escape from the strain of marriage. And now that fleeting thrill had cost him everything. Meanwhile, Sophia prepared to take the hardest step of her life. She locked herself in the guest bedroom, ignoring Noah's desperate knocks at the door. By dawn, she packed a small suitcase, refusing to meet his eyes. Without a word, she called the elevator and left. Over the next few days, she sought solace at her parents' modest home in New England. The moment she stepped inside, she collapsed into her mother's arms, sobbing. She told them everything. Richard Carter, once so proud of his wealthy son-in-law, was livid. Evelyn tried to remain calm, but her heartbreak showed in her trembling voice. "We trusted him," she whispered, her voice cracking. If Isabella thought her victory was complete, she had overlooked one crucial truth. Heartbreak transforms people in unpredictable ways. By forcing Noah's hand, she had also lit a fuse inside him, one that would ultimately endanger her own ambitions. Days stretched into a week of seething pain. Sophia moved about her parents' house in a daze, her eyes swollen from crying. Richard and Evelyn gave her space, occasionally urging her to eat. She barely touched her food. She replayed every moment of her marriage, wondering when Noah had stopped loving her. Had he ever truly loved her at all? And yet, even as bitterness filled her heart, a part of her still yearned for him. But she knew one truth above all: she could not stay in a marriage built on deception. The tabloids wasted no time. Lancaster billionaire scandal explodes. Noah Lancaster and Mistress exposed. Sophia Carter walks out. Paparazzi swarmed outside her parents' house, desperate for a statement, for a photo of the humiliated wife. Sophia stayed inside. Let them speculate. She had bigger battles to fight. Lancaster billionaire's alleged affair exposed. Paparazzi swarmed the quiet New England neighborhood, cameras flashing as they snapped photos of a distraught Sophia stepping onto the porch. Inside, her phone buzzed with a message from Margot Whitman, the socialite who had first warned her about the rumors. "I'm so sorry, dear," Margot wrote. "If you need anything, let me know." But no amount of sympathy could fix the betrayal. After another restless, tear-filled night, Sophia made a decision. She had to face Noah. Officially. She picked up the phone and called Marcia Rowland, a highly respected divorce attorney recommended by a close friend. Marcia listened carefully as Sophia told her everything. "The first step," Marcia advised, "is a direct conversation about the divorce terms. At some point, Miss Carter, if you choose to keep the Lancaster name, you'll have to meet with him. We can't finalize anything without a discussion." Sophia's throat tightened. She had known this moment was coming, but hearing it aloud felt like a physical blow. "I want no contact," she insisted. "I don't even want his money. I just want out." Marcia's voice remained calm yet firm. "I understand, but be careful. You contributed to his success, provided emotional support, and helped build his philanthropic structures. It's within your rights to seek a fair settlement." Tears welled in Sophia's eyes. "Fine," she whispered. "Whatever you think is best." A meeting was arranged at Marcia's office in downtown San Francisco. Noah arrived first. He looked haggard. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. He seemed to have aged a decade in a single week. Dressed in a tailored suit, he still carried the air of a billionaire. Yet today, there was no confidence in him. When Sophia entered, Marcia's presence was steady, diplomatic, her composure that of someone who had witnessed countless marriages dissolve. Noah stood, but Sophia refused to meet his gaze. She seated herself opposite him at the long table. Marcia began. "We're here to discuss a potential settlement." Before she could finish, Noah interrupted. His voice trembled. "Sophia, please, can't we talk privately first? I made a mistake, a massive one, but I don't want to lose you." She stared at the polished tabletop, refusing to look at him. "It's too late," she whispered, her voice laced with betrayal. "I can't trust you again, Noah." He reached across the table, desperate to close the space between them, but she pulled away. "I never wanted this," Noah insisted, frustration carving deep lines into his features. "I was an idiot for letting Isabella get close. It was about business, then it turned into something else. I don't even have an excuse. But I do love you." Sophia's breath hitched, her voice barely above a whisper. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this." Silence settled between them, thick and oppressive. Marcia cleared her throat, her tone professional yet firm. "We should address the settlement specifics. Miss Carter, how do you wish to proceed?" Sophia's voice was steady, though her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "I want a clean break." She exhaled slowly. "We can discuss the philanthropic programs we started together. I want those to continue, but I don't want anything else from him." Noah's eyes flashed with despair. "Don't say that. I want to protect you. Even if you can't forgive me, I want you to have financial security." Her jaw tightened. "I'm not your charity case," she snapped, pain threading through every syllable. "I was your wife." Marcia pivoted back to the legalities, her tone measured. "The divorce can be filed on grounds of adultery, which will make the settlement process more straightforward." Noah barely hesitated. "I'll sign anything," he said quickly. His remorse was raw, and he saw no point in prolonging her agony. The meeting ended with tears in Sophia's eyes and desperation in Noah's. As they stepped outside into the cold air, the noise of San Francisco's bustling streets surrounded them. Noah saw his last chance. Standing on the sidewalk, his voice broke as he pleaded, "Sophia, I regret every moment I hurt you. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but if there's any chance—" She shook her head. Tears slid down her cheeks. "There isn't," she whispered. "Goodbye, Noah." The news of the impending divorce exploded across media outlets. Lancaster divorce. Billionaire's marriage crumbles amid infidelity. The tabloids had a field day, splashing images of a tearful Sophia exiting Marcia Rowland's law office, while Noah was photographed with a haunted expression, speeding away in his limousine. Social media erupted. #Lancaster scandal trended worldwide. Armchair analysts debated whether Sophia would walk away with a massive settlement, or if Noah's affair signaled a deeper corporate meltdown. Investors in Lancaster Industries panicked. Stocks plummeted as board members hounded Noah for reassurance, but he was too consumed by regret to manage the crisis. The next days were pure torture, and for the first time in his life, Noah Lancaster had no idea how to fix what he had broken. In his penthouse, once filled with Sophia's laughter, Noah roamed from room to room, haunted by her presence. He recalled how they had slow danced in the living room after a successful charity event, how she would curl up by the window with a book, completely lost in its pages. Now, every corner was saturated with memories and regret. Isabella tried to reclaim her place in his life. She sent messages, called repeatedly, even showed up at his office with coffee, as if nothing had changed. But Noah was no longer dazzled by her. If anything, he resented her. Her cold, calculated decision to force the affair into the open had destroyed everything. One morning, after a tense board meeting, she cornered him in the hallway. "Noah, you haven't been responding to my calls." She forced a tight smile, trying to mask her frustration. "We need to discuss our future." Noah turned to her, his expression weary, hollow. "There is no future for us, Isabella." His voice was quiet but firm. "You destroyed my marriage, and I let you, but it ends here." She bristled, crossing her arms. "I gave you everything you needed. Support, strategy, and genuine affection. And now you blame me?" Noah let out a bitter laugh. "You orchestrated sending those photos to my wife. You forced this confrontation, and now I've lost her, and I have no illusions. You didn't do it out of love. You did it for yourself." Isabella's eyes darkened. "You think I'm just some power-hungry opportunist?" Noah stepped away, his voice hollow. "I think you knew exactly what you were doing, and I hate myself for ever letting it happen." For the first time since it all began, Isabella realized Noah would never see her as his partner. Her plan had backfired. She had succeeded in tearing Noah and Sophia apart, but she had lost his trust, his affection, and any chance at power. Fury flashed across her face as she turned on her heel, storming out of the office. Noah barely noticed. He was already drowning in his own self-loathing. Meanwhile, Sophia quietly finalized her divorce. Marcia secured a settlement that allowed her to maintain oversight of their philanthropic ventures. But beyond that, she wanted nothing. No financial ties, no lingering connections. She moved out of her parents' house, determined to start over. With the help of her close friend, Annika Monroe, she found a modest apartment in San Francisco, far removed from the luxury she once lived in. For the first time in years, she felt free. No longer burdened by the expectations of being the perfect billionaire's wife, she finally turned back to the one thing she had abandoned: her writing, and this time she was ready to channel every ounce of her anguish into it. Sophia's poetry crackled with raw emotion. Every verse was a confession, of heartbreak, of betrayal, of resilience. She was determined to reclaim her identity, even if it meant forging a new path in the wreckage of her marriage. Meanwhile, as the divorce neared its final stages, Noah battled a storm of regret and emptiness. At Lancaster Industries, the company he had once commanded with unwavering confidence, his presence began to falter. His executive team and board members whispered about his erratic behavior, missed meetings, disengagement, and a complete lack of focus. The media's relentless coverage only made things worse. While his net worth remained untouched, the intangible pillars of respect and stability were eroding. One early morning, Noah sat slumped over his mahogany desk, drowning in exhaustion. Papers about mergers and expansions lay untouched. Instead, he scrolled through old photos on his phone. A picture of him and Sophia, smiling at a charity gala. A selfie from a yacht trip. A snapshot from their wedding day, frozen in time. The pain was suffocating. "How could I have been so blind?" he muttered under his breath. From the doorway, his assistant, Jordan Turner, hesitated before stepping inside. "Sir, are you all right?" Noah rubbed his tired eyes. "I'm fine, Jordan." Jordan didn't look convinced. "Forgive me for speaking out of turn, but you haven't been yourself. The team is worried. You have a conference call with the Tokyo branch in 10 minutes. Should I reschedule?" Noah let out a shaky breath. No, I'll handle it." He straightened in his chair, suddenly aware of the responsibility pressing down on him. "I built this company. I can't let it collapse." He gave Jordan a nod. "Thank you." That day, Noah forced himself to function, attending video conferences, reviewing contracts, discussing potential deals. Yet, even in moments of relative normalcy, a hollow ache remained. He had spent years pursuing success with single-minded ambition, and in the process, he had neglected the one thing he should have cherished most: his marriage. Meanwhile, in her new San Francisco apartment, Sophia gradually picked up the fragments of her life. She had leased a small place on a quiet street, far from the penthouse, far from the world she once knew. It was nothing extravagant, but it gave her the peace she desperately needed. Surrounded by her beloved books, she found solace in the one thing that had never betrayed her: writing. Poetry became her sanctuary. Each line she wrote was a confession of heartbreak, of betrayal, and of the faint glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, she could find herself again. Her parents visited occasionally, bringing homemade meals and quiet support. One evening, Richard Carter glanced around Sophia's modest apartment, his voice soft. "We want to help you financially. You shouldn't have to struggle." Sophia shook her head gently. "I'm all right, Dad. This is my choice. I need to stand on my own." He sighed, his eyes brimming with compassion, but he respected her decision. Evelyn pulled her daughter into a tight hug, tears shimmering in her eyes, wishing she could take away even a fraction of the pain. After they left, Sophia found a small envelope on her table. Her father had slipped in some cash anyway. She smiled wryly. Parents never stopped caring. Occasionally, social media bombarded Sophia with headlines about the billionaire's fall. Images of Noah looking distraught, alone. Photos of Isabella gliding effortlessly through exclusive events, untouched by scandal. Sophia tried to avoid them, but sometimes it was impossible to escape. Seeing Noah so broken tugged at something deep inside her. Despite everything, a part of her still cared. But anger and betrayal remained, a constant reminder that he had shattered her trust. On nights when loneliness crept in, she poured her soul into poetry. "I still taste your memory in the hush of midnight, but the flavor has soured, leaving echoes that burn." She wrote until her eyes blurred, letting tears blot the ink. And in time, she realized something. Heartbreak had also granted her creative wings, a strange alchemy of pain and artistry. 2 months after the scandal erupted, the divorce proceedings were nearing completion. The major terms, division of assets, philanthropic responsibilities, were settled. The final hearing was set for the following week. Though she was still wounded, Sophia felt a sense of closure approaching. She fantasized about the day she could sign the papers and finally walk away from the Lancaster chapter of her life. Her friend, Annika Monroe, suggested something unexpected. "You need a break from this city," Annika urged. "A change of scenery might spark new inspiration and help you heal." Sophia hesitated, but eventually agreed. A weekend retreat at a tranquil cabin nestled deep in the forests of Lake Tahoe. Surrounded by tall pines and a shimmering lake, she found the solace she craved. No paparazzi, no city clamor, just the gentle rustle of trees and the whisper of water against the shore. The leaves rustled in the breeze, and the distant cry of loons echoed across the water. Sophia sat on the cabin porch, a steaming mug of tea in her hands, her notebook perched on her lap. For the first time in months, her breathing slowed. Her mind quieted. On the second day, she decided to wander down a nearby trail, camera in hand, hoping to capture the beauty of nature. She ambled along, pausing to photograph wild mushrooms and the golden sunlight filtering through the dense canopy. Rounding a bend, she nearly collided with someone coming from the opposite direction. She stumbled back, startled. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she said quickly. The man before her chuckled, stepping aside. "Didn't mean to startle you," he said warmly. Salt and pepper hair, a kind smile, and a sturdy flannel shirt, a walking stick in hand. Sophia regained her composure. "It's okay," she replied, exhaling. They introduced themselves. He was Dr. Alan Brooks, a local veterinarian, out for a morning hike. Something about his calm presence put Sophia at ease. They chatted about the area, nature, photography, and how stepping away from city life could heal the soul. Dr. Brooks studied her thoughtfully. "You seem like you're carrying a heavy heart," he observed gently. "If you ever need a kind ear, I'm here." Sophia hesitated, surprised by his quiet empathy. She wasn't about to unravel her entire marital disaster to a stranger, but a brief conversation? It felt oddly therapeutic. "It's been a challenging time," she admitted. Dr. Brooks nodded, his expression understanding. "I've learned that sometimes we have to step away from the noise to find ourselves again. It's not running away, it's finding clarity." His words lingered in her mind. They continued walking, discussing life's twists and turns. Sophia smiled, truly smiled, for the first time in weeks, as if the world held color again. There was no romantic spark. She wasn't ready for that. But for the first time, a sense of human connection warmed her heart. And when they finally parted ways, she realized she felt lighter. Maybe there was a path forward, one that didn't revolve around her shattered marriage. Back in San Francisco, Noah wrestled with his own demons. He avoided Isabella, distanced himself from the marketing department she ran. Instead, he buried himself in work, focusing on stabilizing Lancaster Industries. Late at night, in the quiet solitude of his office, he sifted through old philanthropic proposals, initiatives that he and Sophia had once championed together. Each page felt like a reminder of what he had lost. One report caught his eye. A scholarship recipient, a young poet named Rachel Yates, had recently published a piece. In it, she praised Sophia Carter for her mentorship and generosity. Noah stared at the words, and for the first time in a long while, he wondered if he had any right to try and make things right. "I owe my journey to Miss Sophia Carter," the poem read. "She believed in me when no one else did." Noah felt a sting behind his eyes as he read the words. He remembered how fiercely Sophia supported young talent, how she had always fought for others for their dreams. Where Isabella had been driven by power, Sophia had always been driven by compassion. And now it was too late. The divorce was almost finalized, and he doubted Sophia would ever forgive him. Regret had come. But it had come too late. The morning of the final divorce hearing dawned overcast, a gray sky mirroring the somber occasion. Sophia arrived at the courthouse flanked by Marcia Rowland, her attorney, and Annika Monroe, her closest friend. She wore a simple black dress, her hair neatly tied back, projecting composure despite the storm raging inside her. Noah was already there, pacing the corridor, surrounded by his legal team. When he saw her enter, he stilled, his eyes filled with longing. Sophia met his gaze with a polite nod. Nothing more. The bailiff called them into the courtroom, a modest space with wooden benches and scuffed floors, far from the grand settings to which the Lancasters were accustomed. At the bench, Judge Lorraine Whitmore presided. Her expression was sympathetic, yet firm. "We're here today to finalize the dissolution of the Lancaster marriage," she began, reviewing the legal documents before her. Noah and Sophia were asked to confirm the settlement terms. Sophia would retain oversight of their philanthropic foundations. She had requested minimal spousal support, purely for transitional purposes. Personal assets would be divided fairly. Each answered with a measured, "Yes, Your Honor." "No, Your Honor." Sophia had also expressed a desire to resume her maiden name, though she hadn't yet decided if she would do so for professional reasons. Finally, Judge Whitmore fixed them both with a compassionate gaze. "I see many divorces in this courtroom," she said gently. "It's always painful, but sometimes it's necessary. I hope in time you can both find peace." Noah's lawyer gave a subtle signal. He wished to speak. The judge allowed it. Noah stood. His voice was unsteady, but he spoke directly to Sophia. "Sophia, I'm sorry. I know words can't mend what I've done, but I want you to know that I cherish every moment we had. And if there's ever anything I can do to help you, even after this, I will." The courtroom fell silent. Sophia's eyes shimmered, but her expression remained resolute. She inhaled, then exhaled. "Thank you," she said softly. "I hope you find a way to be happy, Noah. And I hope I will too." Judge Whitmore gave a final nod. The marriage was over, and the next chapter was waiting. "If there's no further business, I will grant the divorce effective immediately. Court is adjourned." A single bang of the gavel sealed the end of their marriage. In that instant, Sophia felt both a crushing sadness and an odd relief. The bond she had once treasured above all else was now officially severed. Noah glanced at her, regret etched into every line of his face, but said nothing more. Outside, the paparazzi waited, eager for photos of the newly divorced billionaire couple. Security personnel shielded Sophia from the onslaught, guiding her and Annika into a waiting car. Inside the safety of tinted windows, she finally allowed a sob to escape, tears rolling freely down her cheeks. It's truly over. A swirl of heartbreak and uncertain freedom filled her chest. Meanwhile, Noah retreated to his own limousine, cameras flashing wildly as his driver navigated through the chaos. He leaned back, pressing his head against the cool leather seat. Despite the finality of the decree, his heart refused to accept it. He had signed the papers, but regret was a slow poison, and he knew he would carry it for a long time to come. Life carried on in the aftermath of the Lancaster divorce, but not without consequences. For Sophia, days felt strangely open. She poured her energy into philanthropic projects and writing. The heartbreak lingered, but she found solace in finishing her manuscript, finally sending it off to a publisher. Annika, along with a handful of supportive friends, urged her to keep moving forward. For Noah, the separation marked a tumultuous period of self-reflection. He went through the motions of managing Lancaster Industries, but the spark that once fueled him had dimmed. Ironically, the board was pleased he had severed ties with Isabella Hayes, whose true nature was finally coming to light. Rumors swirled that Isabella had pushed for a senior executive role, only to be rebuffed by the board, who deemed her methods too aggressive. Her downfall was swift. Other employees began speaking up about her manipulative behavior. Pressure tactics, backhanded threats, questionable expense reports. Under scrutiny, Isabella resigned, leaving Lancaster Industries in disgrace. She attempted to contact Noah one last time, claiming she had been made a scapegoat. He refused to take her calls. He wanted nothing more to do with the woman who had shattered his life. But even with Isabella's exit, Noah found no relief. The penthouse remained a hollow shell, heavy with regret. Sleep eluded him, and most nights he found himself pacing the empty halls, wondering if there was anything left to salvage. Hours passed in restless pacing. Some nights, Noah found himself driving by places he once frequented with Sophia. A small cafe in Nob Hill, the local library branch they had helped fund, the quiet bookshop where she once lost track of time. Each stop reopened old wounds. "This is what I deserve," he muttered to himself, acknowledging the pain as penance. In an effort to salvage a piece of his conscience, Noah immersed himself in philanthropic work. He visited homeless shelters at night, making anonymous donations. He volunteered at a local youth center, remembering how much Sophia had loved working with children. But the more he tried to do good, the more he felt the weight of her absence. Each act reminded him of the partnership they once shared. Meanwhile, in San Francisco, Sophia's emotional scars slowly healed. She stayed in touch with Marcia Rowland, not for legal matters, but for advice on safeguarding her independence. Her writing flourished. She slowly began forging friendships outside her old circle. Yet at times, she still felt a phantom ache for Noah's presence, memories of their genuine love flickering in the back of her mind. "I can't cling to those," she reminded herself. He betrayed that love. Neither of them realized that destiny still had unfinished business. A critical choice lay ahead. Remain trapped in bitterness, or find a way to forgive. If not each other, then at least themselves. Months slipped by. Then, Sophia received good news. A respected independent publisher had accepted her poetry manuscript, praising its raw emotional depth. Overjoyed, she dedicated the collection to her parents, and to anyone who has ever loved and lost. Sharing her story through verse gave her a new sense of purpose. She hoped it might resonate with those who had also experienced betrayal. Meanwhile, at Lancaster Industries, the board made a suggestion. Noah should work with a career coach. Reluctantly, he agreed. His coach, Maurice Jenkins, was a straightforward man, unimpressed by wealth or power. Their first session was blunt. Are you prepared to remain stuck in regret? Or do you actually want to move forward? The directness caught Noah off guard. For the first time, he admitted, I'm tired of my own self-pity. Maurice offered a simple recommendation: personal counseling. Therapy was something Noah had never considered, but desperation for relief led him to agree. Session by session, his therapist peeled back layers of guilt. Noah slowly began to accept he could never undo the past, but he could learn from it. He saw with painful clarity how he had neglected his marriage in pursuit of success, how he had let ambition spiral into betrayal. And during one session, the therapist asked, Is there anything you'd like to say to? If you could say anything to Sophia, what would it be? The question hung in the air. Tears gathered in Noah's eyes as he swallowed the lump in his throat. I'd tell her that I'm sorry, not just for the affair, but for not cherishing her, for letting my ego overshadow our relationship. His therapist nodded. Then write it down, he suggested. Whether you send it to her or not, put your feelings on paper. Sometimes, that's the first step toward closure. That evening, Noah wrote for hours. He poured his rawest truths into a letter. How much he missed her smile, how her unwavering kindness had always centered him, how he regretted chasing fleeting thrills instead of nurturing their love. When he finished, he sealed the letter in an envelope and placed it in a drawer, uncertain whether to mail it. But somehow, just writing it felt like the first step toward something, even if that something was simply learning to live with regret. Meanwhile, Sophia's poetry gained quiet recognition. She was invited to do a reading at a literary cafe in San Francisco. Nervous yet excited, she stood before a small audience, reciting verses that spoke of heartbreak, healing, and self-discovery. Her voice wavered near the end, but she pushed through. And when she finished, applause filled the room. As she scanned the clapping faces, a familiar figure caught her eye. Margot Whitman, beaming with pride. Later that night, as Sophia stepped out into the cool air, Margot approached her. That was beautiful, she said warmly. I'm so proud of you. It takes courage to lay your soul bare. Sophia smiled softly. Thank you. Margot hesitated, then added carefully, I know you might not want to hear about Noah, but I've seen him recently, at a few events. He looks miserable, Soph, genuinely haunted. A pang of sympathy twisted in Sophia's chest, but she forced a small smile. I appreciate your concern. I can't let myself dwell on him. It hurts too much. Margot nodded. I understand, but if you ever want to talk about it, or if you ever need to know something, you can trust me. Sophia thanked her again, though she doubted she'd ever want more details. As she walked home in the crisp evening air, she realized something. While the pain still lingered, she no longer woke up feeling paralyzed by grief. She was growing stronger. And perhaps that was the best closure she could ever hope for. But fate has a way of orchestrating unexpected meetings. One afternoon, Sophia found herself at the Lancaster Carter Scholarship Foundation. She had retained a role overseeing its direction, and she was about to cross paths with the last person she expected. Even after the divorce, the Lancaster Carter Scholarship Foundation continued its work. A new batch of students was being considered, and Sophia's input remained invaluable. As she reviewed applications, the receptionist's voice crackled through the intercom. Miss Carter, Noah Lancaster is here to discuss the scholarship budget. Her heart pounded. For a brief moment she hesitated. But this was as much his scholarship as it was hers. She couldn't refuse him. Steeling her nerves, she agreed to see him, reminding herself to remain professional. Noah entered, looking weary but sincere. He offered a small, uncertain smile. Thank you for seeing me. Sophia gestured to a chair. Let's keep this brief. What do you need? Noah swallowed. The board suggested raising the scholarship fund, given our improved financial outlook. I wanted to get your thoughts. He handed her a detailed proposal. She took it, scanning the pages, forcing herself to ignore the flood of memories threatening to resurface. Their conversation was uncomfortably cordial. Strictly business. Neither acknowledged the emotional landmines between them. When the formalities were over, Noah lingered. I'm glad you're still involved here, he said softly. Your passion for these students was always inspiring. Sophia gave a curt nod. It was important to me. A pause stretched between them. Noah looked at her, his expression a mixture of longing and regret. Sophia, he hesitated. I know it's not my place, but could we possibly talk sometime? Properly? Her heart thumped in her chest. The betrayal, the humiliating photos, the tears. Yet at the same time, the sound of his laughter. The way he used to tuck a stray hair behind her ear. No. This conversation changed nothing. Her voice remained steady. I don't think that's a good idea. Noah gave a hollow nod. I understand. Rising, he left quietly, leaving behind the faintest trace of cologne she once found comforting. That night, Sophia wrestled with conflicting emotions. She yearned to move forward, yet felt a curious pang at the memory of Noah's haunted eyes. It's just residual attachment, she told herself. After all, you can't spend years loving someone and then feel nothing. But she also reminded herself how deeply he had hurt her. At the same time, across the city, Noah sat alone in his penthouse, surrounded by emptiness, and wondering if he had just closed the door on his last chance. The letter sat in Noah's hands, the one he had written to Sophia. He contemplated mailing it, or perhaps handing it to her directly. But a suffocating fear of rejection held him back. Instead, he tucked it away again, uncertain if they would ever be able to speak freely about their heartbreak. Weeks turned into months, and life moved forward. Sophia's poetry collection, Scars and Sunrises, was published, earning heartfelt reviews. She traveled for small readings, meeting fellow writers and grateful readers. Each appearance reminded her of her strength, her ability to rebuild, to stand on her own. Meanwhile, Noah regained control at Lancaster Industries, but regret clung to him like a permanent scar. He expanded the scholarship program significantly in Sophia's honor, though it felt hollow without her enthusiastic partnership. He continued therapy, still searching for meaning in his mistakes. You can only atone by becoming a better man, his therapist often reminded him. From a distance, they both tried to find their new normal. Occasionally, Sophia would hear about Noah's philanthropic gestures, or see social media posts of him at a youth center ribbon cutting. On rare occasions, their paths crossed at charity events. But they maintained polite distances. A few times, fleeting eye contact occurred, a silent acknowledgement of what once was and what was forever lost. Isabella Hayes eventually faded from public discourse. She had vanished from high society, rumored to be working for a small firm overseas. The scandal had died down, replaced by the next wave of sensational headlines. Sophia was grateful for the reprieve, relieved that the world had finally moved on. And then came a cold, drizzly afternoon. Sophia was heading to a meeting for the Scholarship Foundation. She parked along a quiet downtown street, umbrella in hand, lost in thought. Suddenly, a familiar voice called her name. She turned. Noah was jogging through the rain, no umbrella, hair plastered to his forehead. Sophia, he gasped, slightly out of breath. I saw your car. Please, just give me 1 minute. Her instincts told her to keep walking, but something made her pause. Raindrops pattered around them, the city a gray blur. She stood silent, waiting as he caught up. Noah took a moment to steady himself, blinking away the rain. I've been wanting to talk to you for so long, he said, his voice raw. I know I have no right to ask, but can we get coffee? Just coffee, to talk. Sophia searched his eyes, and for the first time in a long while, she saw something real. Betrayal still flared, but time had softened her rage, leaving behind an ache that had begun to mend. With a sigh, Sophia answered, All right, 1 coffee. They ducked into a small cafe, shaking off the rain. Settling at a table by the window, they ordered cappuccinos, a shared memory of simpler times. Noah studied her for a long moment, then spoke, his voice trembling. You look well. I'm glad. Sophia nodded, swirling the foam in her cup. I'm doing better. I've been writing, traveling a bit, rebuilding. Noah fidgeted with his jacket zipper, his nerves betraying him. "I'm glad," he repeated. "I never wanted to see you destroyed. He stopped, struggling for words. "I just want you to know, I regret everything." Sophia studied him. The dark circles under his eyes, the way his once cocky confidence had been replaced with something quieter, something broken. She exhaled. "I believe you," she said softly, "but regret doesn't fix the past." Noah nodded, pain etched into every feature. "I know, if I could turn back time." "You can't," she interjected. Her tone was gentler than before. "We both have to live with what happened." They sipped their coffee in silence. For a brief moment, the warmth offered a fleeting comfort. Then, Noah cleared his throat. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, or for you to come back. I just wanted to apologize properly. I was selfish and foolish. You deserved so much better." Sophia's throat tightened. She thought of how deeply she had once loved him, how she had believed they would grow old together. Yet despite everything, despite the heartbreak, she found herself saying softly, "Thank you for saying that." Outside, the rain tapped against the window, and as they spoke, they revisited old wounds. Sophia shared how devastated she had felt receiving those photos, how betrayed and humiliated she had been. Noah listened. Tears glistened in his eyes as he acknowledged every failure. He admitted how he had let ambition cloud his judgment, how Isabella's flattery had preyed on his weaknesses. In the end, they both wept quietly, a strange mix of sorrow and relief filling the space between them. Neither expected reconciliation. Sophia's heart had moved on. She had built a new life. But their conversation offered something else, a measure of closure. A chance to speak truths unfiltered by anger or guilt. When they finished, Noah wiped his eyes, a shaky smile forming. "Thank you for letting me say all of this." "I hope you find happiness, Sophia." She exhaled slowly, feeling a weight lift from her chest. "I hope you do too, Noah." They stepped outside, and under the soft drizzle of San Francisco's gray sky, they parted, each walking toward a future no longer entangled in the past. As the rain eased to a drizzle, Noah offered a tentative handshake. Sophia hesitated, then met it with a bittersweet smile. No words were needed. Then they walked in opposite directions, each stepping into a future forever shaped by a past that couldn't be undone. Even the glimmer of unimaginable wealth can't shield a marriage from the brutal truth of betrayal. In the aftermath of scandalous affair photos sent by a cunning mistress, Sophia Carter divorced her billionaire husband, Noah Lancaster, in a torrent of heartbreak. Yet, in the ashes of betrayal, something else took root. For Sophia, pain became a catalyst. She found solace in poetry, rekindled her spirit, and forged a new path. For Noah, ambition had come at a devastating cost. He confronted the hollow consequences of his choices, grappling with a remorse that no fortune could erase. While they parted ways, their conversation on a rainy afternoon allowed them to release old grudges and acknowledge their shared past with honesty. Sometimes, closure doesn't come as a neat, happy ending. Sometimes, it arrives as a fragile acceptance of what's lost, and a whispered hope for what still lies ahead. If you were moved by this tale of heartbreak, regret, and resilience, please like this video, share it with friends who love a good drama, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that explore the powerful bonds and breaks of the human heart. Thank you for watching.